Welcome to London. We're at the Fashion and Textile Museum, where on display here is a very remarkable red dress. 343 individual embroideries are on this dress from 46 different countries. And it's been 13 years in its creation. And the mind behind this amazing feat is a Somerset artist who we're about to meet. But what's quite incredible about this as well is listening to women's voices, some from war-torn countries, expressing the difficulty, but together it underlines the hope, community, individuality within the whole, which is what it's all about, recognising different soul gifts within unity, within the one spirit. And this dress is on tour throughout the world. So we're lucky to be here today to see it. And I want to share the stories with you. And if you do like these videos, please remember to subscribe, to like, to comment and share with your community. It all helps me make these films because I am doing this for free to educate, to spread the joy and positivity. So please remember to subscribe.
So I grew up all over the world, so I was always very exposed to different cultures, different identities, different languages, colours. I think that was a huge seed. And then just a fascination in the female voice and a sadness at what I was kind of witnessing and seeing, around me, around the world. And a real motivation to want to just draw these voices together. So I was commissioned by Art Dubai to create a piece of work. I'd been doing lots of very, very large scale installations in London for about 3 years before, and they often involved dresses. And I was like, I want to create something collaborative. It needs to last 10 years, and it needs to be with embroidery because it's so universal. I didn't know it would become a platform for expression necessarily, but it was going to just unite without borders and boundaries, just to create one voice. And I just sketched it on the back of a napkin in the cafe, and I was like, that's my piece. It was almost like I was just channeling something without knowing it. It was just, there we go, that's the piece. The dress is made of silk dupion. I bought it in Paris, and I believe it comes from India initially. And because there was no budget for me to take a whole dress around the world, I used to send panels, just small panels of the fabric in the post, and then it would come back when it was done. So some of them took a week, some of them took a few months. The panel in Vietnam took 6 years.
Why a red dress?
Because you cannot ignore red, because if red is in a room, then you always look at it. It's powerful, you take notice. And I wanted this dress to be noticed. It was almost like a stamping my foot. You will listen to what's on this dress. It's important. These women have a voice and it needs to be heard. But also it's so linked to feelings of anger, love, passion, blood, women's cycles. It's a powerful colour, and I found it the most appropriate for a strong feminine voice. It's also been very practical, like thinking about all the floors it's been on and how many hands have worked on it. It's been brilliant. So I'm really happy with the colour.
And it's wonderful. It truly is. It's actually got a really powerful energy.
I feel it. I think a lot of the other artisans feel it, and I actually think a lot of the people who come and see it feel it. It's connecting women across the world, and with that there's support, isn't there? And there's an understanding, there's comfort. The 136 commissioned artisans on the dress were all paid for their work. All the rest of the embroidery was added by enthusiastic audience members at events and exhibitions. But the commissioned artisans also will be receiving 50% of all exhibition, museum and exhibition income for the duration. And I have set up an Etsy shop on the website, so any of the artisans are welcome to sell their own work through that, kind of under the red dress umbrella. So there is a real intention to keep giving back, particularly as the dress is now travelling the world. There are 6 women who worked on this panel, and they are supported by a Belgian textile label called Kirstie in Rwanda. And they have called this panel From Darkness to Light. And the tightness of the circles and the blackness kind of depicts the war and the hell that these widows went through. A small child under a machete in the centre. You see a river of blood and a tree on fire. But as the circle expands, it becomes more filled with colour and looser, and it ends up turning into a sun. Their story is one of hope, because through their embroidery work, through the community they now have, they are leading happier lives. They have their own houses, they're empowered, and they have each other. This panel was created by Anastasia in Russia. I actually found her on Instagram, and I loved her kind of quirky, folksy style. She said, I want to create a serene bird for the dress, because you need one for the project. It will bring you happiness and protection, and it will bring positivity to the work. It's incredible. And you think about, this one here in Russia next to this one in South Africa, and this one here in London. We've got, Egypt, Mexico. It's all in this very, very small area, and they're all responding to each other with this common voice, this powerful feminine voice. Some people come in to see the dress and straight away just start to cry. Others just need to stay back because they can't come towards it too quickly. This panel was created by Zenaida Aguilar from Mexico in French knots, which are really tricky to do. And Zenaida had a really challenging past. She was in an abusive marriage and ended up being left with nothing. And she has totally rebuilt her life with embroidery. This panel here was created by two Kosovan artisans called Faride and Fatim Halili, who are supported by Sister Stitch, which is an initiative by Manchester Aid for Kosovo. They're actually being encouraged to really go into their feelings and into their healing by writing accounts and reflections of their experiences in the war. Better one winter in your own country than 100 springs away. The greatest wealth is to live content with little. Freedom has come. Love yourself first. Love all. Trust some. Hate none. A winter is a winter. Be nice, everyone. We live in peace now. It's beautiful. It's very, very beautiful. And to be able to actually meet and spend time with the artisans last year, Faride and Fatim, was absolutely incredible. And so many of the artisans I've explained the other works to, you can see these moments of recognition. For instance, the artisans in Kosovo, when I was explaining Rwanda, you can see it's like, oh yeah, I get that. I know what that feels like, and they've been through it too. And on a smaller scale, seeing embroideries of a mother tending to her baby, or a farmer ploughing its field. These are all kind of situations and ideas that we can all relate to, no matter what our background is. I mean, essentially, we want to feel safe, we want to be loved, we want to grow. We all feel it, like wherever we're from, wherever we live, it's all there. And I think that this dress highlights those issues.
And we all have a story, and
Yes.
we all need to be witnessed and heard.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, we all have a voice. We all have a voice, and I think that's always been in me. And I think in my younger years, I found it very hard to express. In fact, very, very hard to express. And I had loads of mental health issues through my 20s because I hadn't expressed and I didn't know how to. And I think there was a whole kind of internal journey that I was on before the dress, and certainly during it, of really realizing like how important it is to honor your own feelings, to connect to yourself, but also to be heard, to have a space to be heard. So at the center of the back panel, there's a cobweb, which I actually put on in about 2014, I think it was. And at that time, there was a lot of challenge with the project. And I remember feeling pretty frustrated, lack of funding and lack of artisans and all these kind of blockages that I felt. And I think it was a way of me just trying to draw the project together. I didn't realize that at the time. But it's just couched on, so it's very, very loose and not really fixed. I didn't want to kind of disrespect the embroidery underneath, just in a very fine wool. But interestingly, a few years later, in fact, in 2020, a lady came to an event and came straight up to me and said, I have to talk to you about this cobweb. You haven't anchored it into the dress, it's just floating. So I was like, okay. So she said, you need to put an intention into each of the, what do you call these, spindles? An intention into each one, and then anchor the end of each of the threads down. And with that intention, and then on the inside of the bodice put a symbol that only you know, which marks that intention. So it really fixes and anchors the whole project as a whole. So initially I was a little bit taken aback, and then as I kind of integrated it all, I said, well, actually it kind of makes sense. It's almost like putting a spell into the dress. And so I did it whilst in Mexico, and so each of the the threads here has a different colour, and it's bound and wrapped and then anchored very strongly at the end, and then inside there's a symbol that only I know which marks it. And since that time there's been a huge amount more flow, synchronicity, grace, all these things that have really come into the dress. So I'm always very grateful to that lady.
Because, you know, you're learning about this being a ritual. You know, it is ritual and ceremony, different cultures and traditions and women from all over the world.
Yes, it really is.
And setting these intentions, creating and fixing the web.
Yes.
How beautiful. And just explain your own spirituality. I think it's pretty similar to mine.
Yeah.
It's seeing the divine in everything.
Absolutely, yeah. I am a trained Kundalini yoga instructor, and it's a very rigorous training, and it's all in Sikh framework. So I would say that I relate hugely to a lot of the principles from the Sikh religion, but then also some of Buddhist, some of Christian. So I don't tie myself to any particular framework. We are all one. Once I realised that the interconnectedness of all things and the beauty of oneness and divinity, I think very humbling, like puts things into perspective, but also how privileged I am to be here. Like, let's use this life to the best possible journey, like let's make the most of it. My sister Isla said to me a few years ago, you know, you're weaving the world back together one stitch at a time. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. So I then embroidered it onto the dress, and it's so often commented on. This panel is from Australia, from a group of women in Brisbane, 24 women, who spent quite a while collaborating on this piece, and it celebrates their Australia. So we've got Ayers Rock here, kangaroos, beautiful coral reef, exquisitely embroidered there, and then kind of some more Aboriginal motifs around the left side there. This gold lotus is created by Alam from an atelier in Bombay. So I understand that only men work in professional embroidery studios. It's strong and free, the Canadian maple leaves, the beautiful textures and the heart there. And then she's put in a medicine wheel. This is my niece Darcy. She created this when she was 6 years old, and it was her first proper embroidery that she'd ever done. So she was the youngest embroiderer at the time, which was really lovely. Got a beautiful blackbird here from Wales, Amanda Wright, who's an incredible artisan who uses machine wool to create these amazing birds and just things she sees from her studio in rural Wales. Got a lovely panel from Pakistan, a lady who lives between New York and Lahore, and it's kind of about her own cultural identity, drawing together these different cultures, and then with the red dress from the UK here. My whole life is like flipped on its head since I started this. All my priorities have shifted and changed. I've grown so much with this dress, and my life has been so intertwined with this dress. It's such a huge part of me, and now stepping into a new chapter of the dress basically leaving me. It's mainly going to be in the States and Canada, then it's going to South Africa, Australia, and actually later this year Pakistan and Egypt. So I'm really intending to bring the dress back to all of the commissioned artisans so that they can see their work. It's off, and I'm just kind of here guiding, you know, when she needs, but she knows where she's going. She's got her own mission.
It's stunning, Kirstie.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much.
And if you enjoyed this, please like, subscribe, and share with your community.